Okie dokie, Pickle. Let's get to some headlines from across the state of Texas. A little bit of Friday cleanup, though. Friday follow-up.
Do we have to? Do we have to follow up? Actually, we do, because there's a better part of this story. So tell your part, and then I'll tell my part.
So on Friday, you may remember we were doing a show, and we were keeping an eye on the North Texas versus Louisiana Tech basketball game. I was rooting for North Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Not only because I want you to be happy, but also because it's a Texas team against a non-Texas team. That's easy. That's easy. It was like when I was rooting for UTEP over Middle Tennessee.
Like,
that's easy. North Texas lost.
Yes, they did.
North Texas, I'm willing to call it a pitiful offensive display.
It was so bad.
It was a pitiful offensive.
It was so bad.
Did they crack 40?
No, I don't think so.
It was bad. But I did get to hear Dave Barnett and Hank Dickinson on the call as I was driving to meet a friend of mine. But anyway, North Texas loses, but there is a silver lining.
There is a silver lining, and that silver lining is...
silver petty lining.
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock at the Super Pit in lovely Denton, Texas. It'll be UNT versus Texas State.
Wow.
In the Mallory Pickle, Ishmael Johnson fight to death bowl.
I feel like we need to dedicate
the
entire
that's in the
show
NIT.
tomorrow.
Let's throw that out there. It's in the
NIT,
NIT, but it's the first round of the NIT. North Texas is hosting because they're the 2 seed. But yeah, Ish is coming to the pit with us. So,
by the way, it's a good time to plug Texas 24, which is our
yes.
Dave Campbell's Texas basketball podcast, which is excellent. Matthew Bruni and Ishmael Johnson. It's really good. It's I don't know if I want to say it's better than this show. It's a really good show. I'll say that. Like, it's a really good show. I don't know if I want to start telling you to stop listening to this, but listen to both is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, you can get your football and basketball.
Texas 24. It's really good. Is worth your time. Okay, headlines from across the state. Let's start with, I guess, kind of a generic headline, which is that spring practice is starting across the state of Texas at the FBS level. You've got practices that are heating up. One thing I would always caution you about is there's always going to be these reports of like, oh, so-and-so got hurt, and so-and-so is not practicing in spring ball, stuff like that. It is March 14th, guys. I am here to tell you that unless somebody says that they're like retiring or something like that, just go ahead and cool it. Like ACLs and things like that are serious. But like there was a report that one of the star freshman defensive linemen for A&M was not going to play in spring ball because he was injured. And I saw a little bit of freak out online. I'm like, guys, we're 6 months away from football.
Mm-hmm.
More than we're 6 months away from football.
6 months, yeah.
So like. He's got time, like, unless it's like he broke his leg, and even if he broke his leg, honestly, like, but unless it's like, soft tissue injury or something like that, like, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. So, spring practice kicking off across the state. We'll have coverage for you at TexasFootball.com. Mike Craven is on his college tour right now. He's already been a few different places. I believe he's at Baylor today. He tweeted that. So, anyway, he's getting all sorts of good stuff for the magazine. All right. Did you see the story at The Athletic, Pickle?
No.
Did you hear about this?
But I did once I typed the headline.
Stuart Mandel of The Athletic has the report. A 5-star recruit in the class of 2023 has signed an agreement with a collective that could pay him more than $8 million. He will be paid $350,000 almost immediately, followed by monthly payments escalating to more than $2 million per year once he begins his college career, in exchange for making public appearances and taking part in social media promotions and other NIL activities on behalf of the collective or the third party. While there's no centralized database for these types of contracts, 2 NIL experts believe it's the largest individual NIL deal signed by a non-professional athlete. So you may remember all the freak out with Quinn Ewers, when Quinn Ewers, now at University of Texas, when he decided to forego his senior season to enlist or to enroll in
at Ohio State.
I will tell you that I believe we can rule out Texas kids here.
Yeah.
Because in Texas, at least Texas UIL kids, because Texas UIL kids, I believe they cannot profit off of NIL right now. That is the rule. Now, that could change. Things things of that nature. But for now, if you are a UIL athlete, you are unable to profit off of your name, image, and likeness. So I believe we can rule out anyone in Texas. I guess I should say they don't say who it is for reasons that I bet you can understand. It is interesting though, and I think everyone's kind of now. Go ahead.
This is a legitimate question, and maybe I'm the only one who doesn't know. But can you go ahead as a UIL athlete and sign the deal? You just can't receive the revenue, or can you not even sign it until post-graduation? Like it can be a verbal but not a signature.
I believe that's the case. I don't know.
Verbal but not a signature.
I don't know. The correct answer is I don't know.
Right.
I know for a fact that you cannot get the money. So the fact that this person is getting $350,000 almost immediately would rule out a Texas
as like a signing bonus.
Right, as a signing bonus. That's why Quinn Ewers had to forego his senior season
before announcing the NIL
and
deal.
Reclassify before he signed the deal with the kombucha company. Anyway, all that now one thing to keep in mind with these things is the NCAA, per an NCAA rule, the contract explicitly states that nothing in this agreement constitutes any form of inducement for the athlete to enroll at any school or join any athletic team. So it cannot mention a specific university. Now, I also think that we would be naive. Just because they are not putting it in writing does not mean that there is not. That if it is, for example, I'll pick a name at random. If it's Dan Lambert at Miami, right? Dan Lambert is very famously starting this collective down there at Miami. If Dan Lambert is the one it's his collective that's paying this person $8 million, then there is probably at least a verbal thought of like, okay, you're going to go to Miami then, right? So we don't know who this is, but it is interesting, and it is probably the next big step in what these things are going to look like. And again, this is a 5-star kid, so this is not everybody. Not every Jimmy and Joe is going to get $1 million endorsement deal, but
not even every 5-star is going to get it.
But it does reset the market, and it's a little bit interesting. And so
Step also said it's not just a UIL law or regulation. It is a state law.
Okay, so it could not be even a private school kid.
He says it's state law, not just UIL.
I did not know that. I only knew the UIL portion of it because that's why Quinn Ewers had to reclassify.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a headline on the Athletic website. Some Texas high school coaching news from across the state.
A lot of them.
A lot of them. We'll kind of zoom through these. Big news out of Blanco, Texas. They have hired Jamie Dixon to be their next head coach. Jamie Dixon, friend of the program, who has been the head coach there at Vanderbilt Industrial for the last 4 seasons. 38-13 over his 4 seasons there. This is a really impressive get for Blanco to get a guy like Jamie Dixon to come on board with them. Vanderbilt Industrial is also going to be a very good job. I think that there's going to be.
Oh yeah.
I think Coach Dixon has left that program in really good shape.
Especially being down there in Region 4.
I think that he's left that program in really good shape. But really good get for Blanco as they bring in Coach Jamie Dixon out of Vanderbilt Industrial.
Now with his mascot thing, he wouldn't have to. He tried to draw the cobra last time.
That's right.
And he gave the cobra ears.
Now
so maybe he'll have. You can maneuver your way around a cat better than a cobra.
I would say that's true. Speaking of big cats, Tenaha has hired a gentleman by the name of Terry Ward to be their head coach. He's a Frankston High School assistant coach, and you're probably thinking, well, why is Tenaha hiring a Frankston assistant coach to be their head coach? Any notable at all? That is because Terry Ward is back. Terry Ward was the head coach there at Tenaha from 2009 to 2014. You may remember in 2011, he led Tenaha to a state championship with Reginald Davis was the real star of that program, of that show. I wonder what Reginald Davis is up to these days. Anyway, but Tenaha has hired Terry Ward again. He had a swim through Harleton for a few years. He was at Grapeland. He took an assistant coaching job at Frankston, but now he is back in familiar territory there at Tenaha for his second stint. And by the way, when he was hired, I believe he was promoted from within whenever he took over in 2010, 2009. So he's been around that program forever. He knows that program inside and out. And yeah, so keep an eye on that. Tenaha has rehired, I guess, Terry Ward. a shout out to Bobby Estes. Bobby Estes is retiring. Bobby Estes is the longtime head coach there at, the head coach there at North Dallas. He has been there for 3 years, but he helped lead them to their first playoff appearance since 1952, and helped produce the program's first D1 prospect in 20 years.
That's
Bobby
awesome.
Estes before that was the longtime head coach at Woodrow Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
But he has announced his retirement. Congratulations to Coach Estes on a fantastic career. That's a perfect example of a guy whose career is not going to be like his. Geez, I can look it up. Let me see what his career record is. But you want to talk about like the type of impact that he made. It goes far beyond. Yeah. Bobby Estes has a career 147 and 121 record. A good record, right?
Mm-hmm. A winning record.
147 and 121. But the stuff that he was able to do at Woodrow and the stuff that he was able to do at North Dallas is remarkable.
It speaks a lot more than those numbers do.
Really, really remarkable. So, congratulations to Coach Estes on his retirement. Axtell, this came down recently. Axtell is going to hire Craig Horn, the former Italy coach. It came down a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, that Craig Horn was not going to be back there at Italy. He has found a new landing position, that is Axtell, kind of staying in that greater Central Texas area. I don't know which came first. I don't know if he came available and then he was he applied at Axtell, or if Axtell came calling and he said, "All right, I'm gonna quit a little bit early." In any case, Craig Horn is going to be the new head coach at Axtell.
There was one time in a playoff game where I was interviewing Coach Horn. It was Italy versus Rio Vista, and the horn went off.
Oh, God.
Like the big loud horn went off. So he just quit talking, and then he picked it back up. And so forever in my brain, Horn it's funny. It's ironic because his last name is Horn.
Oh, I get it.
Mm-hmm. You see what I did there?
Krum has made a new hire. Krum, this was a hot job.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people in on this job, but Krum has hired Chuck Caniford out of Clifton to be their next head coach. Coach Caniford, of course, before that was the head coach at New Braunfels, the head coach at Nacogdoches. He's got a number of really impressive years under his belt, including back in a state semifinal run there in 2009 with New Braunfels, and another deep playoff run back in 2007. He's done good things there at Clifton. He's going to be the next head coach there at Krum. Elysian Fields has hired Wichita Falls Hirschi offensive coordinator Justin Crow.
A smart move.
You may remember that Wichita Falls Hirschi is presently looking for a new head football coach. Because their head coach is now the head coach there at Coppell, making the move in Antonio Wiley. Coach Wiley moves on. Sounds like his offensive coordinator is moving on as well to be the next head coach there at Elysian Fields. Again, I'm sorry, every podcast is somebody's first. Wichita Falls ISD is going through like a really big like shakeup in the sense that they are going to, in 2 years, they're going to close all three schools, Old High, Ryder, and Hirschi, and then they're going to consolidate them into two brand new buildings, two brand new high schools. So they're kind of hitting reset on everything, and so Coach Crow is going to head east to Elysian Fields to be the new head coach there at Elysian Fields.
That would be really wild as a student, just getting completely split down the middle. You know,
it's going to be odd. It's
like imagine that if that was your senior year, that would be like a bummer.
Right, exactly. Goldthwaite is looking for a new head coach. Keith Virdell is not going to be back for a fourth season. He stepped down. Of course, Gary Profit and Greg Profit were the head coach there, or Gary Profit, I should say, was the head coach from 1987 all the way up until 2012. And then Greg Profit, his son, took over from 2013 to 2018. Keith Virdell comes in for 3 years, three pretty good years, two playoff appearances in that span. But he has stepped down. Goldthwaite is now open, looking for their fourth head coach since 1986. And finally, Skidmore-Tynan has made a hire. Skidmore-Tynan has hired head coach or offensive coordinator from Marble Falls, Heath Hohmann, to be their head coach. He replaces Steven Silva, who is the head coach there, went 5-4 back in 2021. This was a high-powered Marble Falls offense. They went 9-4 last year. Bringing in a guy like Heath Hohmann is a guy who knows a little bit of offense, but he's going to get his opportunity to be a head coach there at Skidmore-Tynan.
Are they still running the slot T?
Marble Falls?
Yeah. Because them and Liberty Hill were in the same district, and they both run the slot T.
That's a great question.
I just wonder if that means that Skidmore's going to be running the slot T.
Let's find out. According to last year, they were running the slot T. So I would guess that, yes, they're probably going to bring in the slot T there, Skidmore-Tynan. In any case, he's going to be the next head coach at Skidmore-Tynan, Heath Hohmann. Those are headlines from across the state.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.